Hi, just wanted to offer an update and a reassessment of my last post on the LA protests and riots, the ICE and immigration issues. I got some sleep this afternoon after being up so late, and then, turned on the news and saw how the violence had escalated, the crowds, the protests, the police response. It's no good all the way around. The mayor and the governor are blaming Donald Trump, I think rightly so, for his immigration policies that have provoked the violence, but that's no excuse for the violence. I don't agree with it. Certainly from a Christian perspective, I believe that there's a right to peaceful protest, but the burning of the cars that we see, the taking over of the 101 highway, that really defeats the purpose, I think, of the peaceful protest, of the issues. It draws a lot of blame onto the immigrant community that would not have to be there. I think there is some truth to the fact that there are elements of some sort, whether union leaders or others that are organizing the protest and have not been able to restrain any violence. Perhaps some have provoked it. Just as I got on here, there's several cars burning, Waymo electric vehicles. Thousands of protesters are out. This isn't a news report. It's just my response to say that it's a sad, bad day for LA. I do agree with the mayor's sentiment that this is not something that LA needed at this time. I don't believe that even if they could be legally justified, they are not ethically, morally necessary, these raids at this time. I think there are better ways to approach and to deal with this. Sometimes it is simply a matter of timing. I'm disappointed in the disconnect between the governor and mayor combined with Donald Trump, his administration. I do believe, and I know that many of you will disagree with this, I believe that we're heading towards a totalitarian oligarchy in the United States. I agree with many of the remarks that Bernie Sanders has made along these lines. I think it's prophetic fulfillment. I believe that God is withdrawing his spirit from a increasingly corrupt United States. We've talked about it before. I've not given a detailed study of Revelation 13, but many of us, including Seventh-day Adventists, have for more than 100 years saw America as the earth beast in Revelation 13 that appears in a lamb-like form but speaks as a dragon, that ultimately you will not be able to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. We've talked a little bit about what that is. It finally comes down to worship. It's not simply a political issue, but there are satanic agencies working against the kingdom of God, and it will appear for a time, I think, that they have won. We know the outcome, that God is victorious through Christ and his work of atonement. Jesus is coming again. He's going to put an end to the corruption, the immorality. Those who destroy the earth will be destroyed, it says. The nations of the earth do oppose the kingdom of God. They're given opportunities, many opportunities over centuries, to embrace the moral principles of God's law. But ultimately we see from prophecy how these things will end. It is a sad day, a bad day. But I believe that we're going to see these scenes repeated, not only in America, but throughout the earth. There's been much worse riots, obviously, in the past. I grew up at a time when I saw the civil rights riots, again, in LA and other places. I've had family members that were subject to violence during that time. And yeah, I think it has become an excuse. It's something I think personally that this has been provocative of the Trump government, and that it is an excuse to militarize the country. I think we are moving into a totalitarian environment in the United States, a police state of some sort. Some have suggested there could even be civil war at some point in the future. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I just know that Daniel chapter 12 says there's going to come a time when it's worse on the earth than it's ever been in history, just before the coming of Christ. How should we prepare? We should be familiar with the truths of the Bible, but most of all, we should be praying, seeking to know God and His will for our lives, committing ourselves to Him, living in communion with Him, praying for one another. I do believe in passive, peaceful resistance, turning the other cheek, going the extra mile. Those verses, by the way, when Jesus spoke them in the Sermon on the Mount, they were in the context of Roman soldiers impressing citizens to carry loads for them, basically indentured servitude and violence. And Jesus was saying that in the context of the Roman state inflicting violence upon Jews and followers of Christ. And He said to turn the other cheek. Let the violence end with you, and go the extra mile. Show that love, that goodness will overcome evil. And it will, even though many will be called to sacrifice their lives in defense of the truth. We do not defend the truth with violence, but with the love of God. God Himself is just. He's a good judge, a righteous judge, and He will bring evil into judgment and ultimately destroy it. It's not our place to take violence into our own hands because we're not qualified to do that morally. There was a time in Old Testament history when Israel was ruled by God directly, a theocracy, and it took its directions from Him. And so there was a time of warfare authorized by God, but we do not live in a theocracy now. We are to follow the example of Christ all the way to Calvary, if necessary. Our own Calvary, our own cross. Jesus says to love your enemy. Don't curse them, but bless them. We're not seeing that Christian attitude or behavior among the protesters generally, or the rioters in LA now. They perceive ICE and even the police department now as their enemies. A Christian attitude would be, if that were even true, to bless them and not curse them. The same would be on the part of the government. We're not seeking the blessings of God as a nation. It's a grab for power, influence, money, pride. And God will allow us to see the results of, He is allowing us to see the fruit of rejecting Him and His government, His laws, His grace and His mercy. We will, as the Old Testament said, sow to the wind and reap the whirlwind. So those are my views on current events, what's happening. I would encourage you to pray more deeply, to study. Be sure that you know God and His will for your life. seek not only his mercy for yourself, but for others. Jesus said we should be more concerned for those, less concerned rather, for those who can kill the body, and more concerned for God who can destroy the whole being. The very spirit of a person who has aligned themselves with evil. Fearful days are ahead. It's going to become worse. It'll be sporadic here and there, but collectively the tensions are going to grow. It's not only a physical warfare, but a spiritual warfare. And I pray that God keeps you to the end. Take care.